Good evening. Welcome to the virtual forum for the Princeton Board of Education candidates, co-sponsored by the Princeton Area League and Central New Jersey Network. I'm Sharon Steinhorn, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Monmouth County, and I'm very pleased to be your moderator for tonight. And as any league moderator, I live outside of your voting district. The League is a nonpartisan organization. We never support or oppose a party or a candidate. We are a grassroots organization that studies and supports issues for which we advocate. We have a long and proud history supporting voting rights, educating the public, and empowering voters. And that is what we hope to do tonight. So let's meet your candidates and get to the rules to which each candidate has agreed. Your ballot will have 5 candidates for 3 positions. Tonight, we have 4 candidates to meet. And in alphabetical order, welcome Deborah Bronfeld, who says we can call her Debbie tonight. We have Susan Cantor, that can wave hello. We have Daphne Kendall, and we have Rita Rafalowski. I have been asked to tell our audience tonight that any remarks that Debbie, Susan, or Daphne make this evening are as private citizens and not as members of the Board of Education. They are not speaking for the board. And so the rules: each candidate will present a 90-second opening statement in a random order, which was decided prior to airtime. Following, the questions to be asked have been provided by members of the public who have submitted questions in advance. All questions have been vetted for relevance to the office sought by these candidates. Candidates will have 90 seconds to answer each question and will be given the opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal for clarification or expansion if they feel the need for that. And there's also and after the Q&A session, each candidate will have 60 seconds for closing, again in a random order. And as for the timekeeper, ordinarily we would see a red and a yellow card. However, our timekeeper was having a little technical difficulty. And so when there is 30 seconds left in a candidate's speech, remarks, we will just hear the timekeeper say,
30 seconds.
There you go. And when time is up, she will tell us to stop and the candidate will be allowed to finish her sentence. And the forum is scheduled to last approximately 1 hour. And so let us begin. And the first opening statement will be made by Susan Cantor. Susan?
Yes, thank you again to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. I've lived in Princeton for 25 years, and my 3 children attended Princeton Public Schools K through 12. After retiring as Vice President of Operations with over 20 years of experience at an international wholesale company, I dedicated my time to several boards in our community, including the 101 Fund, Princeton Children's Fund, and the Jewish Center. However, it was my volunteer work in the schools that led me to run for the board 3 years ago. While I care for the schools deeply, through my work with the PTOs, especially 7 years as PHS PTO co-president, I knew that our schools could always do better to improve our student experience. I am passionate that each student reaches their academic potential, but in a way that protects and supports their mental health. For example, as a parent representative to the original Bell Committee work at PHS, it showed how the administration, teachers, and a motivated board could work together to support
30
student
seconds.
engagement and health. As co-chair of the Operations Committee, I've also been highly focused on our district facilities, both in our maintenance and in our long-range planning, and moving us toward more sustainable initiatives. I hope that if reelected, I will be able to continue this work while supporting our students' academic goals and their social and emotional health. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And our next opening statement will be from Debbie Bronfeld.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Debbie Bronfeld. I'm running for my 3rd term as a Princeton Public School Board member. I've lived in Princeton over 20 years, and both my boys were educated at Littlebrook, PMS, and PHS, graduating in 2015 and 18. First half of my career was in corporate America, working at manufacturing companies doing accounting, logistics, and inventory management. I then moved to the nonprofit world as an employee and a volunteer. I currently volunteer for the Princeton Mobile Food Pantry. I've had the honor of being on the school board for the last 6 years. I'm not a status quo person and will continue to improve the Princeton School District that educated my children and is educating yours. There's been a lot of talk about rankings and percents. Percents I care about: 1 in 5 teens, 20% in the US, will experience a mental health challenge by the time they're 18. What am I doing about this? Ensuring we have funding, space, and staff to work with our students. And with the staff shortage, I approve partnering with a telehealth company that will also offer bilingual services.
30 seconds.
Almost 18% of our student body are special ed, ranging from more test time to autism classes. What have I done for this? Push for an educational audit, and now pushing for many findings to support all our students. Academic excellence: PHS offers 28 AP subjects. However, 32 AP subject tests were taken. That's 14% more than we even offer. 93% of our class attended 2 to 4 year college.
Stop.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. And our next opening statement will be from Rita Rafalovsky.
Hi, I'm a first-generation immigrant, a parent of 2 children ages 8 and 11. We've lived in Princeton since 2010. As a former economically disadvantaged public school student, I strongly believe that excellent public education has the potential to be the greatest equalizer. For this reason, my number 1 priority is to restore our district's focus on academic excellence for all students. Over the years, PBS rankings have fallen. On niche, our district dropped from 1st place in New Jersey to 3rd place, and nationally from 16th to 43rd place. On U.S. News, our high school dropped nationally from 94th to 490th. Our state scores dropped as well. Our high school's math proficiency score has been 51% since 2015, while Montgomery was 70 and West Windsor 67. Even before COVID, our district's math proficiency was 64%, while Montgomery was 76 and West Windsor was 75. Our participation in state testing was 76% last year and 95% before COVID. For SATs, PHS is neck and neck with our neighbors, but only 50 to 62% take them, a group that is arguably not representative of the entire demographic. Meanwhile, our town spend per student remains above most districts in New Jersey. While rankings are not the final grade, they are indicative of overall perceived quality. Home buyers rely on school rankings to make purchase decisions, and our property values are tied to public school performance. If elected, I would advocate the BOE to move toward a more global, goal-oriented relationship with the school administration, make data-driven, evidence-based decisions, and set measurable goals to track performance, including in helping students improve in mental health. My professional background in the financial sector and in
Stop.
management consulting
You can finish the sentence. Your financial.
positions me very well to course correct our district's trajectory. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, opening statement from Daphne Kendall.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you to Crystal and the League of Women Voters for providing this forum for discussion, and to the other candidates for participating. My name is Daphne Kendall. I'm running for re-election to the Board of Education. My family and I moved to Princeton in 2011 so that my children could attend Princeton Public Schools. I'm a first-generation American. My parents immigrated from Eastern Europe, and my mother is a Holocaust survivor. I went to public school, and it is because of the excellent school system that I received a merit scholarship to college. And I want to ensure that these opportunities remain available for all students who are just like me. I have 2 children that attended Princeton Public Schools. My son graduated from Princeton High School this past June, and my daughter is currently a 10th grader at the high school. I'm proud of the education my children have received, and I want to ensure that every student receives an excellent education. I believe a good public education system that serves all students is a fundamental part of our society and democracy. The Princeton Public Schools provides an excellent education for most students.
30 seconds.
I think the district has implemented many changes that have made our school district better and our children more cared for, but there's work to be done, and I hope to continue to represent our community in making decisions in the best interest of the students in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And when we start the questions, which will be in about 2 seconds, we will start with somebody different each time. So the first question, we'll start with Debbie. Some comment, I'll just mention that some common themes in the questions that were submitted are about administrative spending, transparency, and math, the math program. And so we put together, a lot of people's questions about the same subject. And the first question we begin with is about math. And this is for Debbie. Over the past year, the Princeton Public School Administration made an effort to detract the public school math program, that is, to eliminate accelerated math tracks. Do you believe that this is the best system for all our students? And can you explain the system for placement so that there is transparency and how students are placed and what the math trajectories look like?
And is this 90 or 2 minutes?
90.
Okay. Okay. It's crazy, all the input and all the exput we've been getting about the math. And we have so many math classes, and we are not getting rid of calculus. So if somebody asked that, we're not getting rid of calculus. Part of being the school board, though, is also we have oversight. So I don't know the exact classes every student takes and the exact exams they take for all that, because I have trust in the superintendent, who I really believe in, who then hired a curriculum supervisor, and that falls under her. And so, and I will say, when we had COVID, there was a lot going on. And so I'm not blaming COVID at all. I'm saying that things change and things happen. We've had a lot of changing in math. I know when my boys were in math, there were some supervisors where things weren't, moving the right way. And now we have better focus on what we're doing and what our students need. And we now in the elementary schools have, which is really
30
fabulous,
seconds.
a supervisor of elementary education who can really help all the teachers down there. And that will support our students better because she'll be there. I don't want to sound like I don't know what's going on, but I don't know the exact tracking of every student. And I know we've tried different things because we had a real huge problem in 8th grade a couple years ago where every kid was getting a tutor. And so then we had to step back and look at that. So we are, working on our math program so that it is there for students. Thank you.
Okay. Susan, same question about can you describe transparency and how students are placed?
What I can describe is what has happened the last couple of years and things that we are looking at going forward. So right before the pandemic, right? I think before I joined the board, they decided that in sixth grade that they would not track and they would begin tracking in seventh grade. The pandemic hit, and this never, the change was not implemented or measured. So what is happening seventh grade through 12th grade is what has happened for the last 10 or 15 years, where students were placed in were placed in classrooms based upon teacher recommendations and their scores on certain tests. But what has not happened is we have not had K through 8 enrichment math. We have not had a transparency in terms of what was happening in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, and that has caused a lot of confusion within
30
the
seconds.
district. In high school, we have many tracks which have not changed at all. It allows students to go to university, allows them to go take multivariable, AP calculus, many levels of calculus, many levels of pre-calculus, and levels of geometry and pre-algebra. But as we move forward, I think we need a more standardized way that kids are moved forward or accelerated into the classes, and we
Stop.
need grade enrichment math for every student that needs it.
Thank you, Susan. Daphne, same question.
Could you just read it one more time, please?
Yes, over the past administration made an effort to detrack the public school math program. That is to eliminate accelerated math tracks. Do you believe that's the best system for our students? Can you explain the system for placement so there is transparency about how students are placed and what the math trajectories look like?
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'll say that, first of all, I don't think that there was an effort to detrack or take kids away from accelerated classes. I think what happened was there was a slide by a consultant who's no longer employed by the district that echoed a popular movement in California to remove calculus from public schools. Our administrators never recommended it. It was never a ripe decision. It never came to the board. And any change in curriculum has to go through the board. I don't believe that we should take anything away. If anything, I think we need to continue to add classes to Princeton High School to make it more rigorous. And I think that at a minimum, every child should be given what they need to excel, right, to reach their full potential. So if that's taking classes at Princeton University, that's fine. If that's taking regular calculus, that should be available.
30 seconds.
Okay, I'll just very quickly to the sixth grade math issue. And that was done when Steve Cochran was here. That was 3 superintendents ago now, was here. And what happened was we had experienced two suicides before that change was made. And we were very concerned about transitions. So from 5th to 6th, 8th to 9th, and then pre-K to kindergarten. And so what they did was, rather than have everyone anxious about being in accelerated math in 6th grade, they decided to let everyone settle in to middle school. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rita, same question.
Well, since I'm not on the board, I think my answer has to be a little bit different. But I will just say that I don't believe in detracking. The consultant, or a couple consultants, actually recommended it. I don't know the inside story, so I'm not going to make any assumptions. So I will tell my personal story about placement. My daughter did the test. She was supposed to go to 6th grade in the middle school, so she did the test. And so the process was actually not very clear to me personally. When she took the test, there was no calculator function available to her. And then after the fact, it turned out there was a calculator function embedded in the program, but the kids were not made aware of the calculator function. That's one. Topics in the test that were above pre-algebra level, even though she was, trying to place out of pre-algebra. So there were other topics that had nothing to do with pre-algebra. And so how would she or I have known, and why were they there in the first place? And then afterwards, I asked to see the test, and nobody. I was told that parents are not allowed to see the test for various reasons. The test was not available to us. I thought that was also a lack of transparency. Why we can't see the test, I don't understand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question, and we're going to start with Daphne. One of the roles of the Board of Education is financial oversight. One controversial issue has been the recent unusually high levels of spending by Princeton Public School administrators on outside consultants who manage media and public relations. If you are an incumbent, can you discuss if and why you voted for this spending? And if you're the challenger, what is your opinion of these decisions? Daphne?
Okay, thank you. So communication has been an issue that the board and the district have struggled with for years, just making sure that we are communicating effectively, efficiently, and enough. And so over the years, we've used many different methods of helping the district communicate. So we did have a full-time employee managing our communications. We actually had 2 full-time employees, one after another. And then we had a little reduction and that person wasn't renewed. And then we went to an outside vendor. And I think the cost was like around $40,000 a year, where the person that we were paying was making $80,000 a year plus benefits. And benefits are like $40,000. So let's say that cost was $120,000. So then in 2020 with the pandemic, so now we have a public information officer whose salary is around $50,000, and then
30 seconds.
are 25. So that's 75,000. And then we have an outside consultant to help us. And we needed help with the communication for the pandemic. And we continue with this just to help. And that consultant makes around 40,000. So actually, if you look at the total cost, it's actually less than it was in 2018. Thank you.
Okay. Rita, comment please on the spending on the outside consultants.
I actually am a little disturbed by the spending on the outside consultants. I also think that considering how much intellectual capital we have in our community, especially since we're so close to Princeton University, we have so much academia, so much experienced people in the space, so many people from Rutgers, and just industry people who work in this kind of space. Why we need to spend money on outside consultants is a little bit of a stretch. And also how much money we've spent on consultants. It's been a few hundreds of thousands of dollars, plus that were spent on PR company as well. I think it's extreme, and I think I would prefer to see that money spent more on helping kids who need that extra help. So more on tutors, more on special on student aides who are actually significantly underpaid from what I've seen on how much we pay them. They're paid less than $25,000 a year. I would prefer to spend more of our money on actually people who are working with our students to help them get ahead. Thank you.
I see that Daphne wanted, you have 30 seconds. Did you want a rebuttal?
No, I could have waited, but I'll go. I'll just say that, so our budget is over $100 million. And this past year, I believe we spent $300,000 on consultants. So that is that is a significant amount of money, but in the realm of what the budget is, it really is not that big. And again, our spending on consultants has not increased substantially in the time that I've been on the board. Unfortunately, sometimes it is more cost effective to outsource a task than to hire someone and pay them benefits. Thank you.
Stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The same question for Debbie.
Yes. So a couple things. Sometimes you need consultants because, like Daphne said, you bring in a full employee, you have them then for a couple of years. You have to decide what you're doing, and then you're paying their benefits. We've had a lot with COVID. We needed to get information out, and we had our internal staff, plus we had an interim superintendent doing a lot. We needed someone to tell the community what was going on. We really did. I mean, COVID needed to be shared. When we did our referendum, we also worked with an outside group to do that. And then one thing I'll say, Rita, is, it'd be great if we could get people from the universities, but they have to commit to 10 hours a week, whatever it is, 12 hours a week. And people don't always do that. They'll say, yeah, I'll do it. So I would love for us to be able to use a lot more resources we have in our community, but I don't think people will commit their time. Our communication has been so much better. We've been so much more proactive in sharing what's going on and getting stuff out there. But that's also a change,
30 seconds.
Steve Cochran wasn't into sharing so much, okay? When we had Barry, he was into sharing everything. And now with Dr. Kelly, she understands what we need to tell our families and share with our families. So I find it money, well spent.
Thank you. And lastly, Susan?
I won't repeat what the others have said, but I'll add on to what they're saying. Since now the questions evolved into consultants as a whole, I'll use an example that we were using a consultant when I first joined the board a couple of years ago that was looking at our building usage. And through that work, we were able to make a schedule change at Princeton Middle School that expanded the capacity by almost 200 students, saving the district potentially millions of dollars in trying to figure out how to educate our students, which are already here. So consultants can come in with expertise and give you valuable insight into your building. Another place where I think it's been very effective is in our special ed audit, that it gave us a roadmap so that we can improve our special ed services, providing more equity into the district. So I, agree that sometimes the consultant work can seem costly, but I
30
believe
seconds.
if it's done right and done with good oversight, that it can actually save the district hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and create better educational outcomes for our students.
Thank you. I believe Rita would like 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Thank you. So my background actually includes management consulting, and I would just like to say the engagement that we have with Performance Fact is an example of a mistake I think that we have going on right now. Instead of using our own data to create a strategy that we're working on right now, which is a strategy for the next 5 years, we're not leveraging that data. In a sense, we're building a new district instead of improving ours. That I see as a problem as a former BCG consultant.
Okay, thank you. The next question actually I have down is starting with Rita. And I just mentioned that anybody can pass. You don't have to answer every question. You're certainly allowed to do that. Next question. One resident asks, recent controversies has come from Dr. Kelly's execution of the board's wishes, and those are her personnel decisions, downgrading the math program, age-appropriate sex education, and many other debacles, which has caused an uproar among Princeton public school parents. All these, knowing all these, would you have brought on a different superintendent instead of Dr. Kelly? And this, of course, is for all of the candidates. Rita, starting with you.
Well, this is a very awkward question because I would have to be working with Dr. Kelly and everybody else here on the board. I don't know what went into the decision. I am not happy about the things that had transpired. I think that there could have been a lot more improvements with how the sex curriculum was shared. We could have been engaged as a community to discuss that. I think communication could have been improved in terms of personnel, decisions and or whatever rumors or whatever that were going on. I think most importantly, if I were to look for a superintendent, if I were, to be so lucky as to be elected to the board, I would look at their track record on what improvements they've made in the district that they were in previously, and the one ideally before that. All that information is available online, and I think that I can't put myself in the shoes of the board members that were making the decision, but I did look at the track record, and it's not as impressive as I would have liked. It looks like all children across the board after Dr. Kelly left had dropped in their performance. That to me is a red flag.
Okay, thank you. Daphne, next Same question.
So I think, these have been very trying times. We're coming out of a pandemic. There have been a lot of challenges. And I'd say that, we kept our schools open last year. And Dr. Kelly, it wasn't like a gray area. Like, we were going to keep our schools open because we knew that kids learning from home was not going to work. And it really took a lot. We implemented a daily questionnaire. We had to do contact tracing, and we added one staff member who was also responsible for coordinating security. So I just think if we take a step back and we think about what we have been through, all of us with the pandemic and just the change, the pivot to remote learning, all the technology issues, and then to welcome the kids back with all the safeguards in place, the mask wearing. I think
30 seconds.
I think we did well last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
I'm a little uncomfortable answering this question because of how it was framed. And I also am a little uncomfortable speaking to HR issues in a public forum. So I will echo what Daphne said, that our most important task in the last couple of years has been to have our students be in school as much as possible, have our teachers and students be when they are in school, to be safe and healthy, and to pivot back to what was traumatic for many of our families. So that's right now what I look to in leadership, and we did achieve that. So that's all I would like to say.
Thank you. And Deborah?
Yes. It's interesting the sex ed keeps coming up because that's a curriculum from the governor. And as a public school, we do get, funding from the government. And there are a lot of things that we as a public school need to implement. So, I'm a little confused how that really gets tied to Dr. Kelly. I like Dr. Kelly a lot. I support her 115%. And the biggest job that a school board member does is hiring a superintendent. And I will tell you that we as a board spent a lot of time interviewing candidates, all on Zoom, but a lot of the time interviewing candidates, figuring out, what was best for us. And we spent a lot of time. So it wasn't something very haphazard, which I sometimes feel people think that's what it was. Dr. Kelly wants, a lot of things that I'm really excited about our district: accountability from our staff. She wants our students to do well. She was so supportive of everything we asked for and did in terms of bringing our students into the, making sure the kids were in school. And so I support that. She's bringing in new life. I mean, she knows what it takes to run a district, and I'm really thrilled to work with her for our students, for all our students. She was the one who came up with the elementary, the elementary supervisor without adding head count. Okay. So we have somebody down in our elementary schools really supporting our elementary teachers we've been asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we're going to start with Susan. Rita, did you ask for rebuttal?
Yes, I did.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Go ahead.
That's okay. That's okay. I just want to say really quickly that I think it's we shouldn't just say that the superintendent, everything was successful because of superintendent, or everything was not successful because of the superintendent. Because the BOE ultimately sets the goals together with the superintendent for the school. And I think we need to take, as the BOE, we need to take responsibility for that. And I would like the BOE to take more of a goal-setting relationship, leadership goal-setting relationship with administration to begin with.
Okay, thank you.
Can I rebut? I don't know how to write anything. Sorry.
Okay, 30 seconds, that's all. Then we move on.
Okay. We don't micromanage the district, and I think people think we do. We are oversight. We do policy, we do procedure, and yes, we share our goals with Dr. Kelly. So we also hire someone who we feel will follow through with the goals that we want. So again, I get nervous when people think that I am like selecting the test for the fourth graders and the book that eighth grade's going to read. It's not that. So, we're oversight. That is what a school board does. Thank you.
Okay. Important information. Thank you. We're going to start with Susan Cantor. Next question. And even I read this in the newspaper. On October 3rd, 2022, a Princeton Public School employee, the purchasing agent for the district, was charged with stealing more than $95,000 in school district property for personal gain. The question is, as a member of the Board of Education, how would you or can you prevent this type of occurrence from taking place in the future? Susan?
We've been instructed not to speak of this matter, and I'm uncomfortable speaking to this matter. We did instruct our BA to have a review of an audit of our processes, and we did that immediately upon learning of the possible incident. And it was a very thorough. So I think that's the key step we could take as a BOE, is to make sure that an outside auditor came in and re-looked at our processes.
Thank you. Does anybody else? Well, Debbie, do you want to speak to that? Do you have anything else to add?
I will just say that we hired right away a forensic auditor to come in. Forensic. They went through a lot of detail. And that's all I can say on it. It's an ongoing thing.
Okay, Daphne, I just want to give you the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Look, it's unfortunate. It's what's happening around the country. And I think, like Debbie and Susan said, the one thing we did was we strengthened our controls and to ensure that this type of, incident won't happen again in the future. But unfortunately, people have been doing this since the dawn of time. So we can just button up our procedures even more.
Rita?
Well, my background, is in financial services, and there's a significant amount of controls in place. There's audits that happen all the time. I think that we definitely need to take a step back and learn from this. And I would look at what opportunities we have to increase additional controls, add a maker checker type of process, have regular audits in place. To make sure that this doesn't happen again. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question, I'm going to start with Debbie. All students lost ground academically due to the online learning during the pandemic, and this is particularly true for minority students. And the question is, as a member of the Board of Ed, how will you address learning gaps for all children, including those who live in affordable housing, whose primary language may not be English, whose family income is very low, children who seek accelerated, challenging, advanced placement classes, and including all the children? How will you, what do we need to do?
So first, we need to figure out where the students are right now and where they likely would have been if we didn't have COVID. Because not, every child was missing things. What was great is that we've said we brought the kids back in, because the first thing is for them to be back in school, which is great. We also have to work on our, mental health and wellness, because none of our students are going to be able to study and pay attention if there's a lot going on still at home in their heads. So, we as a board have gotten a lot more space and funds in terms of working with organizations to focus on the health and wellness. And the big thing, I've said it before, but the supervisor of elementary is working directly with our elementary teachers. And that is really going to help the teachers be able to, work with the kids and do multi-tier. We've talked a lot about multi-tier, and this came out of our special ed audit. And it was something we didn't have in place as much. And so we put a lot more of that in place so that we have more focus with each student. We also, okay, at the high school, a lot of things, they changed the whole system. We have a 6-day rotating schedule. We have more free periods. Lunch is longer, so the kids have more time. They built in collaboration for the staff, so the staff can get together more. They have block days with more learning. We have a pause program at the middle school. So the staff has put in a lot of things to help the kids move forward, because we can't just throw everything at them and expect
Stop.
them. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question for Susan Cantor.
Well, this is between the mental health of our students and the learning loss. This is one of the most significant issues facing our board. So initially, especially for those students that tested to have been struggling, we put in a lot of extra tutoring support so that you get one-on-one tutoring using our funds that we got, pandemic funds, ESSER funds for that. So that one-on-one supports as well as supports in the classroom. But I don't think we can expect that the students are just going to bounce back like rubber bands. This is going to take multiple years for our students to be able to recover from this loss. And as you said, students that had less connectivity or students that have difficulty learning online even suffered more significant losses. So I think the board has to support, how the teachers look at the curriculum, how the extra tutoring, the extra one-on-one
30
work,
seconds.
so that we can support our students. It does go hand in hand with the mental health of our students. We know that during the pandemic, that for many students, this suffered, and you're not going to be a good learner without those supports as well. So we've been both working on devoting resources to both academic and mental health resources for our students.
Thank you. Rita, same question.
So the board represents the taxpayer and makes sure that the schools are run well. They're not responsible for the operations. The board can ask for improved transparency and tracking of students' progress. So this is where, for example, post-COVID, right, that the board could have said, we need to have better transparency. We need to have scorecards. We need to be able to track how children are doing. So, for example, one way to accomplish this could have been to create learning plans for these students. So you need to identify them, not by name. There could be a number of something associated to the children. And we could track to see how they are, to add improvements, for them to, goals and so forth. Assign them to a champion or a mentor within the school. Give them extra tutoring, these kinds of things, so that we trace to see how they're progressing, month over month or quarter over quarter, so that we have better control and transparency on what happens with them. This is a topic close to my heart because I was one of those students when I first moved to this country. For years, I was one of those students. Thank you.
Thank you. Daphne?
Thank you. So look, the pandemic was terrible. It affected children more than anyone. And especially, their social development, their emotional development, and their academic development. I've read studies that said the pandemic test scores before and after the pandemic erased 20 years of progress. And no one was more affected than kids from economically disadvantaged households. So when we talk about, what's going on in the district, the kids are not okay. There's significant mental health issues. There's significant behavior issues. And so the kids have to be in the right headspace. And that's why it's so important that the district and the board have brought in supplemental mental health supports for the students, because the kids are not doing well. And so that's the first thing we have to do. With regard to tracking the progress, I read something that says it's going to take 8 years for kids to recover what was lost in the pandemic, which is just unbelievable, because the one thing we don't have is time. So we are tracking it. We do the state testing that just started, Start Strong. We will get the metrics back. And then, of course, we offer supports, for all kids, but particularly our special ed kids, our economically disadvantaged kids, and our children of color. And that process has already started. The teachers know which kids to work with. Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to add one more thing, if I might.
Well, actually, Rita first asked for a 30-second rebuttal, and then Susan, you can add something.
Thank you.
The superintendent attended a forum recently where a superintendent from Chicago or somewhere in Illinois, I believe, said that their school already recovered the learning loss. So I don't know about 8 years. Maybe it varies, by district and whatnot, but it is possible. That's one. And mental health, I'm a big supporter of mental health. I think what we again need to do is we can't just throw people at the problem. We need to assess what the problem is. We need to say, this is the baseline. This is where we are. How we're going to get to that new place.
Okay. Susan?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the board did support this summer a very robust summer school program that had hundreds of kids in person who working specifically on this learning loss issue, and also just re-engaging kids, because re-engaging kids back into in-person learning. So it is something we have been focused on.
Thank you. Okay, next question, and we're going to start with Daphne. This is a question about the Princeton Public Schools strategic plan. Could each of you state whether, if elected or reelected, you will vote to continue Performance Facts current multi-year $92,000 a year contract with the school district?
All right, thanks. So it's not a yearly contract. It was a one-time contract. So I'll admit, I think the process could have gone smoother. But I think that, we've all invested a lot of time and money into the process. So I think with the board's oversight, we will develop a strategic plan that meets the needs of our students, our community, our schools. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, Rita?
So just because we invested a lot of time doesn't mean that we should continue working on a process that is flawed. I would not want to continue with Performance Fact, to be honest. Although I do need to say that Performance Fact, when they work with Council Rock District, Newtown in 2006, the output of that report was completely different. The strategic plan that they developed, it was based on data. It had specific goals. It was night and day compared to what our plan is now. I don't know what caused it. Maybe there was a loss in staff, a loss in expertise, or maybe there was a different direction that was provided to them by the Board of Education, by the superintendent. I don't know. I don't have the details of that. I do know that there are big differences between those two deliverables. So I would not continue a process that's flawed. I would go back and reassess and
30
possibly work with a
seconds.
different consulting company or come up with a different way. I would not want to live with this plan for the next 5 years if it's flawed. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Yeah, I agree with Daphne. We're not doing, several years with these guys. We still have 2 board kind of working sessions that are open to the public that we're doing this month and next month. And we're still, getting more data, and we're still defining it. I wouldn't throw out what we've done. I mean, that's ridiculous. We have a lot of energy in it. We have a lot of different people who have brought what they understand and what they know. And from that, I'm excited for us to get a strategic plan, for the next 5 years on where we want to go. I've spent a lot of time. I'd be very disappointed if it was just thrown away. So again, we're not bringing them back for another year. We're finishing this project that we're working on. Thank you.
Thank you. And Susan?
Yes, I will agree that although the process has definitely, I think, had fits and starts, I don't think having a lot of it on Zoom has been so helpful. I thought the in-person sessions were much better, but I truly look forward to having strategies and measurables, which I do believe will come out of this process, because that is the most important part of the process, that we have goals that then have strategies that then have measurables. So that's the part that I'm the most excited that we will achieve from this, because as we all want to see the measurable improvements in the areas that the strategic plan has identified.
Thank you. I think I'm just looking at the clock. I think this will be the last question before your final. Rita, yes? You have,
Yes. So
okay,
what I believe a strategic plan should be based on, it should be based on our own district data. There should be analysis of that data done together with the community and aspirational goals created. There should be best practices identified. Academics should be a main focus because after all, we are a school or we are a group of schools. These goals should be measurable and clear. Those things are missing right now from our plan. And that's a big red flag for me. This is why I said earlier what I said. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Okay, last question, and we'll start with Deborah Bronfeld. It's about priorities. What do you feel the district and the Board of Education are doing right? And what are the most important areas to improve?
In 90 seconds, okay.
Yes, please.
All right, we need to really improve on the health and wellness and having the people in the groups for our students and staff. You know, I mean, our kids are suffering, they are, and so we need to be there for them. Priorities for me are always the budget, because without the budget, you can't do anything. And another huge priority for me is academic excellence and hiring, retaining, and training our staff, and to make sure they want to be here. And to also, with our staff, I'm really big into making sure everybody's accountable for what they do. We need a really strong group of teachers, educators. Otherwise, our kids aren't going to get what they need anyway. So, but we need to make sure people are accountable for what they do. What we've done well, we got our kids back in school, which is huge, which is, I mean, you know, people say that, but it really is. We know how important it was. And we got their extracurriculars, and they're starting to go on field trips. And it's just really, you know, that part is exciting.
30 seconds.
You know, so priorities for me are, and with the budget is also having a budget that people can stay in Princeton even when their kids leave, you know, but we also have to maintain our buildings. So we're doing referendums, and we need to make sure they're old buildings, and we need to have the safety of our students. And, you know, we need to make sure that we're there for all students. And again, you know, because our special ed is 18%, we need to make sure we're focusing on our entirely diverse demographic. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Cantor.
Sure. I think the board has been proactive in supporting the district in putting in mental health supports for our students. I think we've been proactive in starting to develop a long-range plan for our facilities that both supports the town's growth and sees to it that we're doing needed maintenance. I think that we have been proactive in starting to work with our new staff in order to develop these measurables and deliverables and have ways to have our students, have our staff and district be accountable. I think where we still have work to do, we have kids that are reported not feeling comfortable in our school, not feeling seen and heard. So I think still to work on having them feel that connection, feel seen is important.
Seconds.
And I think the measurables in terms of developing data, because I think that's been an issue in our district, is having the right measurables to be able to have a strategy and a plan. And that's why I'm excited to have a strategic plan, because we have not had one in our district in the past that had specific measurables. So I'm excited to look forward to that.
Thank you. Daphne?
All right, thank you. So, you know, there is a lot of good going on. And, you know, the board has worked really hard. And so a couple of things that have gone well. So we have negotiated, all our union employees are under contract, and our teachers are under contract through 2027. And we negotiated rates well below the county average. And this is number two, is we haven't experienced the teacher shortages that other districts have. And one of the reasons is that the board and the teachers union have an excellent relationship. we have the best teachers, I would say, anywhere. And they are committed to our kids, and they showed us their commitment and their professionalism during the pandemic. I'll say the only openings we have are teachers who left like in late August. And so I just think we're a great place to work, and that's very important. We've been, like, as my colleague said, we engage local and national mental health professionals to address the mental health issues in our schools. And we also passed a referendum that fixed
30
the
seconds.
roofs in our buildings and other things. And we secured 30% of reimbursement from the New Jersey Department of Education, which minimized the impact on taxpayers. As far as improvement, we've had a lot of turnover in administration. We need to, we need those people to settle in their jobs and get up to speed with Princeton Public Schools. Number two, we need to be better with our communication. I said this before, both quantity and quality. And we need to be more proactive and less reactive to issues such as, what happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Rita.
First of all, thank you to the board for various good things. There's more good things that I'm going to mention, but we only have 90 seconds. So good things. We have some of the best teachers in New Jersey. We have a lot of AP classes, and that's really great. We also have a tremendous amount of resources in our community, the generous funding from our taxpayers. I think it's amazing. We also have intellectual capital of our community that we could be leveraging more. We're very lucky. As far as issues, I did mention the declining academic performance. This is correctable. We just need to put the right measures in place to put us back on track. We do have national teacher shortage. It's not as bad as in other places, thank God. But for example, I did hear recently that we didn't have a math teacher for a whole month in the 9th grade. Communication and transparency could be definitely improved. The communication plan needs some work. I think a couple of members have said that. It's again correctable. And listening to a more diverse group of people from the community, and of course, mental health. And mental health, we need to benchmark current state, work with experts in the community to set goals. So again, all this is correctable. We just need to put a scorecard together and set measurables. Thank you.
Thank you. And it is time for closing statements, and you only have a minute, so tie all your loose ends together. And in reverse order of how you opened, we will start with Daphne. Closing statement.
Are we not doing what we would bring to the curriculum? The question?
The prepared question.
Yeah, you had us do a prepared question.
I was not given that, actually. Somebody, I did not know that you had a prepared question. I apologize somewhere along the way.
I apologize too.
In cyberspace. But I don't want to go over time. So
what if we all do want to go over time?
Well,
it's being broadcast.
I think our sponsors, CNJN, I think has allotted us an hour. So please just give a closing statement, and sorry about that. Daphne?
All right, thank you. Well, thank you to Crystal and the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. I'm running for re-election to focus on 3 main issues. Ensure that PPS continued its tradition of educational excellence, expand access and programming to engage all students so that they have the opportunity to reach their full potential, and carefully manage property taxes and the anticipated growth brought upon by the new construction in town. If reelected, I'm hopeful that over the next 3 years, we will continue to make meaningful progress towards equity for all students, including through programming and care to close the achievement gap, representation of underserved groups in higher level courses, and all around respect, empathy, and compassion for all. I believe I've demonstrated as a Board of Education member that I've been a good steward of the Princeton Public Schools, and I commit to continuing to be a good steward for our schools, making decisions with the students at the forefront. And so I respectfully ask all your viewers to support my reelection to the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Rita. And you will see her name, Margarita Rafalowski, on your ballot. Go ahead.
Thank you. My personal immigration story, the fact that I'm a parent to two young children, my priorities for our district, and my professional background are what set me apart from other candidates. I learned English at age 8. My parents brought my sister and me to the US so that our lives are filled with opportunities instead of persecution, labels, and demagoguery. I want the same freedom and opportunities for all our children. Immigration was a difficult time, and we were economically disadvantaged for many years. Kids and circumstances vary, of course, but I understand the struggles and have practical ideas about programs that can help such children. My number one priority is to restore the district's focus on academic excellence for all students. We must understand why rankings and scores have fallen in order to come up with a plan that will put us back on track. I worked in banking and consulting for over 16 years. I have the passion, skill set, and tenacity to work with PPS leaders to define measurable district goals, to evaluate performance, and establish accountability. I will be happy to work with any of the incumbents, and I hope that you will work with me and appreciate my varied perspective. Groupthink is limiting, and tension is difficult, but it also gives birth to progress.
Dawn?
Our district needs progress.
Thank you so much. Debbie?
Mhm. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for allowing us to have this forum. I will continue to speak up for all students because one size of our education does not fit all. I will support a budget that is balanced with smart decision making. I will continue pushing for better tenure review, staff accountability, productive communication, hiring, training, and retaining diverse staff, academic integrity, transparency in budgeting and referendums, again, support service for all our learners, and safe and secure facilities. As an incumbent, I already know who the players are and what the board can and cannot do. I'm ready to jump into what I've been working on. I'm ready to support our students, and I'm ready to do another 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Susan Cantor.
Hi, thank you again for hosting this evening. When I joined the board almost 3 years ago, within 60 days, the district had to pivot to remote education, and much of our work in the first couple of years was worked through the lens of the pandemic in order to support our district. I'm excited in a second term to work on strategies and measures to better our district, to make sure that we both maximize the academic potential of all our students, but do it in a way that supports their social and emotional health. I wish to continue on the work we've been doing around our facilities, both to make them more sustainable, to be able to plan for the future as our town grows in a way that is fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. I'm excited to continue this work, and I hope that you'll support me on Election Day.
Thank you. And again, apologies about that lost question, but you've all worked on it, so you have a good answer to your neighbors and friends. In closing, I'd like to thank the candidates, all of you, for wanting to serve. I want to thank the audience out there for caring enough to tune in, and certainly to Central New Jersey Network and the League of Women Voters team for putting this forum together. This forum has been recorded and it will be posted on the League's website, which is lwvprinceton.org. It will also be on vote411.org. The forum will be rebroadcast on CNJN, and no recording other than that by CNJN is allowed. And if you want information on all the candidates on your ballot, running for everything on your ballot, you can go online to our award-winning nonpartisan league website, vote411.org. So my final words are: get educated. You've got good candidates to help you get educated. And remember, speak up through your vote. Don't forget to vote. We need everybody's voice. Stay safe. Thank you, and good night.